Okay, so hey guys, I thought I would try something different here on the channel. This is slightly still War of the Visions related, so hopefully you guys enjoy it. Ignore my face there, this is more me talking over a time lapse, so don't worry about that. So let me just bring up what I want to show you, and these are a few thumbnails that I made for some of my videos. Um, some of them have to do with raids at the bottom there, and some of them at the top just are just random references, I guess. Um, these thumbnails I kind of made using Blender, which is a 3D program, and using the in-game models from the data mine. So you can grab the models from the data mine, bring them into Blender, and kind of just do whatever you want with them. So I actually got inspired to do this by someone on Reddit and Facebook. So you probably know who this guy is, but once you see the picture there, Mipanzuzuzuu, he or she, they, I guess, always kind of used to kind of just make pictures of whatever raid just passed. And so I kind of just had that same idea of creating, a scene around basically my raid team and the raid boss, and sort of how, some fun little scene just to kind of summarize it, I guess. So now, if we're looking at this video here, what I'm doing in this video, I actually tried to do this on stream, but I just didn't give myself enough time to do this. And I kind of ran into a few issues as well. So what I kind of just decided to do was kind of make it into a time lapse and then just talk over it. So I'm just going to start the video now, and it's going to take a little bit to start, so give it a second. But I'm sort of just have myself farming gil at the bottom corner there. So I kind of just tried to do this all at once. But anyway, so yeah, you basically can just jump into the data mine, and all the characters are named in a weird way, but you can sort of figure out the pattern. And what I'm doing here is I'm actually importing Omega and basically the units that I used on my team: Elsirelle, Elena, Cecil, and King Robb. So as you can see there, King Robb had a bit of an issue, so I kind of had to delete part of him, and then sort of he just became huge. It was a real mess. But here I'm just kind of showing how I just make it show the textures. And actually I forgot to show that you can actually here it's more of an anime style like in the game, but you can actually just shade. You can use different shadings for the textures, so it looks like a weird 3D model. You've probably seen like weird 3D models in old video games. So I'm just gonna talk through this basically. Right here, so Robb's model is kind of just messed up for some reason, so I kind of just have to resize him. And so you can see like points sticking out of all the other units, and that's essentially like their skeleton. That's sort of the way they do that in video games, I guess. So I might have to pause this right now. But Robb's skeleton, for whatever reason, it's like broken, and I kind of had to work around that. So basically what I'm doing is I'm kind of just setting up the scene, placing the characters in a certain way. I sort of have an idea in my mind of how I want to show them, and you can see me kind of moving the bone there to kind of show how when you move the bone, it kind of just moves the model. So basically I'm just trying to set up a scene like in a general basic way of what I picture in my head. I'm kind of putting Robb and Cecil up in the front, and then I'm going to kind of put Elsirelle and Elena a little bit further into the background, essentially. I kind of want Robb and Cecil to kind of like be greeting each other or something like that. Like, they just got teleported onto the battlefield, and, they're kind of just greeting each other and sort of like signaling to each other, oh, we're going to fight this. I sort of just wanted to have like Elsirelle and Elena. Like Elena's just going to be flying through the air because she's sort of a superhero, right? And Elsirelle is just kind of like already noticing Omega and just sort of running towards him, essentially. So right now what I'm doing is I am posing Elsirelle, and you can see my arms there. I want to have her basically holding up her sword like she's about to swing it. And I kind of run into a little bit of an issue here while I was trying to stream this. I apologize to whoever was watching my stream at the time. As soon as, like, the closer I moved the camera to the unit, they just started disappearing, and I couldn't figure out why. I did figure it out later, but it kind of just, you see how it's happening there, it kind of just made me struggle. Anyway, I'm kind of just posing Elsirelle, so I'm trying to get her in a position, sort of like holding a baseball bat type of position. But right now you can see that all I'm basically doing right now is putting her arms like right in front of her, you know, face or chest. This can be pretty straightforward and simple to do. I think anyone could do this really, but it just takes some patience and just a lot. It takes time, basically, is what I'm saying. So here I'm kind of just trying to figure this out, and I just imported a random sword just to kind of get a better idea of how I can make Elsirelle, you know, make this pose, right? So I basically move everything along the X, Y, and Z axis, like one line at a time. As you can see, I'm kind of moving it straight and then straight. And then all I'm basically doing is rotating each joint. So like the shoulder joint, the elbow joint, and the wrist joint, I'm rotating it in the X direction, in the Y direction, and the Z direction until I basically eventually get it to look how I want to look. So this part right here, for whatever reason, the sword had bones, so I just decided to remove the bones, and I don't know, it just changes the size of the sword and everything. I don't know why that happens necessarily, but I'm basically just putting the sword back into Elsirelle's hands so that she's holding them. And so you can see that she's kind of just like stiff, holding her arms in front of her chest. So what I kind of want to do is tilt her body so that she's kind of, you know, as if she's kind of, you know, lining up to take a swing, and also sort of position her legs so that she's not standing like straight forward. So you can see I'm just slowly adjusting the arms and the hands so that it looks like she's grabbing the sword. Right now I'm just using that sword as a placeholder, and I'm going to give everyone their specific sword. So you can see I'm kind of moving the legs now by like the knee joint, the hip joint, you know, rotating one at a time, just slowly getting it into position. And I think I'm sort of trying to just readjust everything maybe, but I think Elsirelle's kind of done. A little bit more of an adjustment on the leg, but I think she's pretty much done here. And so after this, I kind of just decide to move on to Elena. I think I stop at random times just to kind of, because I have my game farming, so I just kind of, whatever, just restarted it or whatever, or added more energy. So yeah, there you can see her pose is kind of pretty cool right there. Her hair kind of aligns just right, so I didn't have to mess with it that much. Mostly just her arms and her torso, and then tilt her head forward, and then get her legs sort of like as if she's running a little bit. Alright, so now here with Elena, I'm just doing kind of the same thing, but I'm kind of just making a different pose. It's almost like a dab pose, but like one arm is a little lower. And then this like weird little thing on her, okay, this video kind of messed up a little bit, but Elena kind of has a weird little thing on her shoulder. It's like a little, like a cape almost. And I kind of had to like readjust it because it kind of did something weird. All right, hold on, give me a second. I'm gonna fast forward this a little bit. Okay, so we're back on Elena. I'm just kind of trying to adjust this cape because when I turned her arm, it kind of just went the wrong way or something. So now I'm just adjusting the cape. That takes me like 1 more second or something. And then I sort of just want to place the same sword in her hand. I basically just duplicated it, and then I'll duplicate it again here, just to kind of get an idea of how I'm going to position her hand and her arm, and sort of just maybe tilt the sword forward a little bit, something like that. I'm not sure if I did that with this sword, but with the other, when I get her actual sword, then. So you can see on the left, so the right is just me where I can adjust her and like all the models, and on the left is the actual scene itself, so I can see it without all these bones and all these crazy lines and everything. All right, so I basically just duplicate her sword and then, you know, move the first one into place and then sort of flip the other one upside down and then have her hold the other one. So it looks kind of like a cool little action pose. And I know it's not like a perfect pose there, but kind of my idea is just to kind of get it showing in the right way. So I'm pretty much just going to leave it like that. It's not meant to be a perfect thing. It's just kind of meant to be like a quick little, you know, I throw together some stuff. Okay, so now I'm kind of working on Robb, and since I sort of deleted his skeleton from before, from his actual in-game model, what I tried to do was add a skeleton just from Blender. But actually this skeleton ends up being a little bit too complex for my skill level, really. And so I tried to join it into Robb. As you can see, I'm kind of just moving it into him and sort of inside him, scaling it a little bit so that it's his same size. But what ends up happening, well, at first it kind of doesn't work. Then I try again, and what ends up happening is when I move his arm, like all his other clothes moves sort of in the wrong way. I can technically fix that, but it would have taken me a long time, so I kind of just didn't. And I kind of just undid everything and just removed that skeleton. And basically, instead of using a skeleton, I tried to do it the hard way and move it basically pixel by pixel, or, you know, they're called vertices in 3D, I guess. Basically all the points that connect the polygons together. So yeah, I tried to move all the polygons and sort of rotate them together. It's a lot harder to do it like that. So I'm basically not going to end up posing Robb in any sort of crazy way. This is kind of where I'm sort of realizing how tough and difficult it is to actually move all these like pixels at a time. You can see that the arm is kind of, you can sort of, it's clipping, you can see through it. It's kind of just not working out. And then I'm going to start working on his arm. So I kind of pictured myself, or, you know, posing him sort of like a KB Lame style, where he's just like signaling like Cecil, all right, let's go that way. But you know, that kind of didn't end up working out. So what I tried to do here is I tried to add a simpler skeleton, and it's just not going to work, guys. So let's just kind of let that play through. So yeah, it's going to be sort of, this one's going to be like a little bit better because it's simpler. But again, like in order for me to connect the skeleton to each one of his, you know, polygons and everything, it's going to be kind of hard. Basically, it's going to take me time, and I just didn't really want to dedicate that much time to it. Again, I just wanted this to be a simple, quick little thing. But you can kind of see there, I'm sort of trying to rotate his head a little bit, and it's sort of taking like some part of his armor or something like that. It's just not working out, so I end up scrapping that idea again. If you ever decide to do this, Robb's model is kind of broken, so maybe don't use that one. All right, so now I'm kind of like literally trying to do the same thing and just select all the polygons, but it's really like there's a lot of hidden polygons. Like these models are pretty detailed, and there's a lot of hidden polygons, so I kind of miss some, but then I end up, you know, grabbing a bunch of them. So if I was a professional animator and I worked for Gumi or Square, I wouldn't be having this much trouble. Like somebody else would have set up the model to kind of work in a way that I can use it. So here I'm sort of manually trying to alter the forearm, and I am sorry if this is like nightmare fuel and you see like Robb's arm being decapitated here, but it's sort of happens a lot with 3D modeling. So I kind of remove his like part of his coat there so I can work on his fingers a little bit. But again, this is such a pain that I just don't think it's a good way to do this. But I did end up kind of doing it and sort of like making it look sort of all right. So, you know, I was kind of happy with that. But at this point, I'm sort of realizing that it's just going to take me so much longer to do it this way. So I'm kind of just like, okay, I'm just gonna do one more basic thing on his other arm, like rotate it in the Z direction, in the Z rotation, and then rotate it in the Y direction, I think that was. So I've kind of just separated his arm and sort of rotated his shoulder pad there, and I'm kind of just bringing it together. So it's basically gonna come together and look a little bit better. All right, so I think that's pretty much it. And I think at this point I decided, like, yeah, it's too difficult to do that without the skeleton, so I'm just gonna kind of leave it like that. So kind of my idea here is right now is that I would make it so that he was handing Cecil his sword, which is going to be the Sword of Light. But my issue, I didn't want it to look like he was attacking Cecil. And I was sort of thinking, like, I'm sure in one of the Final Fantasies, I don't really remember, it starts off with like you meeting the king or whatever, and the king asks you to do something. So I kind of just wanted to evoke that kind of thing where, you know, Cecil teleported in from like Final Fantasy IV into this battle, and King Robb is just asking Cecil, like, hey, help us out here. And that's kind of what I wanted to evoke. So that other sword is just kind of me trying to position Robb's sword where it would be. And then now I'm kind of just adjusting Elena because she was looking kind of small on the left there. So now I think she's a little bit in a better position. And then I'm thinking, like, I kind of want Cecil and Robb to be closer. So I want to kind of move Elsirelle to the left a little bit more. So right now, kind of just to finish off the whole idea, I just kind of made Cecil sort of reach out as if he was accepting the sword from Robb. And then basically I just wanted to fix his arms so that they're, you know, facing the right way, and his left arm so it's like kind of just resting downward. It's not in the T-pose. Okay, so basically all I think I do here is move Cecil closer to Robb, and then move Elsirelle sort of to the left there and sort of rotate her so that she's facing Omega. I think I'm also realizing here that Omega's kind of far away or something like that, or too big or something. So I'm gonna move him a little bit closer, and I think right here I'm recharging my energy on my auto farm. So that's kind of why it's just stopped. Okay, so now I guess I'm kind of just looking at Cecil from different angles, and this is where I'm sort of adjusting Omega here just to kind of bring him closer and maybe scale him down a little bit so that he still looks big but not like out of the frame big. So I think this is essentially, I'm happy with this. Oh, and here if you look on the left, Robb's head looks like it's a little bit off to the it's not centered. And this is just kind of a weird thing with dealing with 3D images and trying to make them 2D. Things kind of just don't work that well. So you kind of have to adjust it a little bit and sort of technically I'm sort of moving Robb's head a little too far to the left, but on the left side here it kind of looks okay from that camera angle, so it just kind of ends up working out. If you're interested, there's actually like a Street Fighter video where they talk about this immensely, where they rotate the characters so that they look better on the 2D plane. It's actually a really good video. I'm gonna try to link it if I can find it, but I will have to search for that. All right, so now that I feel like I kind of have the pose in a good situation, now it's sort of just a matter of bringing in the actual real swords for everybody. So I think I might be refreshing my energy again, but I think I'm looking for the sword files, and this actually took me a while. So and I thought I had cut some of this out, but apparently I did not. Okay, so let's give it a second here. Basically, what I wanted to do is I was looking through the data mine, and we actually have the Sword of Light. We have Robb's actual sword from his art, which is not actually available in his game. We have Elena's sword, and then we have, again, Elsirelle's sword from her art, which is not available in the game. So I'm kind of looking through the files to try to extract that. And I really thought I edited this down, and I don't know why it's sort of doing this now. So give me 1 second here. Okay, so I'm actually moving this other sword, which I thought was the Sword of Light, but it actually isn't. It looks a lot like it. But I think I'm now sort of looking at it, and I'm just like, this doesn't look like the right sword. And I'm kind of just checking my game just to see if it's the right sword. But essentially the idea here is to move it into Robb's hand and sort of just replace that other sword. I might need to fast forward this again, so give me a second. Alright, so here's where I kind of realized that that wasn't the Sword of Light, and I kind of just decided to leave that alone for now. And actually, no, I actually have an invisible Sword of Light. For some reason, it just didn't import right, so I wasn't able to actually use the Sword of Light. So I kind of just said, you know what, let me work on the other swords. So this is actually Elsirelle's sword from her art, which is not available in the game. Who knows, maybe we might get it in the future. But basically, I kind of just rotated it so it's facing a certain way, because I think it's more apparent with this sword because of those like things that are sticking out. Then I also kind of just tilted it a little bit, so because Elsirelle wouldn't really be holding it straight up. Alright, so this is actually Elena's sword. So what I'm going to do is just bring that up to Elena and sort of, you know, end up, you know, I'll duplicate it, but then I kind of just wanted to size it first and then duplicate it. So I kind of just deleted it, and I deleted that's actually Gafgarian's sword. So I deleted that sword and sort of just put it into her arm. And it's really weird because I have to rotate it in a certain order. So I did it in the wrong order. So I had to undo it and then just kind of do the X and then the Z or something like that, instead of the Z then the X. So the top sword was actually a little bit easier. And what I did was actually made it a little bit bigger, because on the left, the swords were looking kind of small, even though they looked okay on the right. But again, it's sort of based on the camera angle we want on the left. So I had to just kind of make the swords a little bit bigger. Alright, so actually this is Robb's sword from the art. And if you look at the art, he's kind of holding it like with the point like upwards like that. So I kind of just decided to change that from what I had before. And then I think I had the sword on his other hip. So I kind of just wanted to have it on his hip that was on the side of the, so you could see it from the camera angle, right? I think at this point I actually wanted to have Robb be on the left side, but I would have to repose him, so I kind of just left him on that side. But looking back at it now, I think it looks better because you can actually see Robb's face and you can't see Cecil's face. So I think that kind of just ended up being better because you don't really need to see Cecil's face. Okay, so now I brought back this, it's like a samurai sword, because I was like, you know what, it looks close enough to the Sword of Light, but I couldn't find it. So I kind of wanted to position the sword in a way that it didn't look like Robb was attacking Cecil, but I couldn't really find a better angle or anything. I even tried to rotate it, but it just didn't really look that interesting. So I think people could kind of assume that, you know, Robb is not trying to kill Cecil in this scene. Okay, so what I'm doing now is I imported a cube so that I can use that cool raid background that we usually see in raids. And what I'm going to do is just resize it so that it's sort of big, and then sort of rotate it so that it looks like it's like that, you know, they're in the background. So I'm kind of just moving the cube so that from the camera angle that we have here on the left, it kind of just looks like they're in that sort of cavernous battlefield type of thing. And that's pretty much it right there. Just some final adjustments. This video, for some reason, didn't really edit together correctly, so it's gonna like repeat or something. So I'm just gonna pause it right here. And that's pretty much it, guys. I wanted to show you that because I thought it would be interesting, but I also just kind of wanted to say that, you know, you could pretty much, using these in-game models, you can pretty much pose them in any way. I was even thinking of making some memes, and it's not really that, it's pretty straightforward. It does take time, and you know, you have to kind of learn it a little bit, but I think anyone can do this. And I kind of just wanted to do this just to kind of show you guys how I did it. If you guys want, I can go into a more detailed version of this and sort of just really tell you what buttons to press and what, you know, things to do to rotate the shoulders, rotate the, you know, elbows and stuff like that. I can definitely do that if you guys are interested in that. But I think it would be cool if people kind of made their own scenes, because I think this is a pretty cool thing to do. I don't know, like the fact that Blender is free and, you know, these data mines exist. I think it's a cool, just little thing to do. And sort of, you know, if you're kind of into, you know, I'm obviously a big gamer and I've always loved playing games. I've always wanted to know how they work. I'm sort of an aspiring game developer too. And so just playing with this, I feel like I've learned a lot. And I pretty much started doing this during the pandemic, like basically after playing War of the Visions is when I kind of started doing this. And I feel like I've kind of learned a lot just kind of doing this kind of stuff. I'm like really literally like one step away from animation. I kind of know how to do animation, but I really haven't tried to make more than like a little bit of an animation. So that's something I kind of want to do for the channel as well, is just kind of do some cool little custom animations using like the War of the Vision characters, and hopefully I can actually get that done. I think now I figured out how to get all the data mine and everything, so I do kind of have access to all the models, and Elena's the latest model, so obviously I have her here, so obviously I have access to her too. And it's sort of a pain in the butt to kind of rip all the, like whenever they add one character, you have to re-rip the whole thing. But, you know, I've gotten it down to sort of a process that I can do relatively quickly. And that's kind of why I kind of ran out of time for the stream, because I was kind of ripping Elena and her swords, because they were pretty much brand new characters. Alright, so that's pretty much it. I just wanted to show you guys, and hopefully I can inspire you to kind of try this on your own. I am personally not that great of an artist when it comes to drawing, but I do like being able to do this, because it's essentially, if you can play a 3D game and rotate the camera and stuff like that, I think you can pretty much do this, because it's essentially the same kind of thing where you're just rotating the camera so you could get a good view, and then you kind of just rotate the, you know, the arms and the legs the same way you would rotate the camera, basically, like up and down and then left and right. And then the Z direction might be a little hard to get used to, but it's really not that hard. All right, guys, so I hope you enjoyed that. And I do hope to make a few other types of videos using the 3D models, just to kind of show you guys how stuff works and stuff like that. All right, guys, thank you guys for watching, and I hope you enjoyed that, and I'll catch you in the next maybe more game related video. All right, guys, see you next time.